Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Digital Nomad Cafe Podcast. Today's guest is Christine Seibold, and Christine is joining us from freelanceandfreedom.com. Hello, Christine.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm very good. I'm excited to talk to you. Had a good look at your website. I love what you're doing. So for our listeners and all those people watching, can you tell us a little bit more about Freelance and Freedom and what it's about?
Yes, absolutely. So I actually started my journey in Boston, Massachusetts, but I live in Miami, Florida now. And I worked at Harvard University for 5 years. And I know a lot of people, Harvard's well known and people think like, oh, what an awesome place to work. And it was a great place to work. However, after 5 years, after kind of 3 years, I got really tired of the 9 to 5, the corporate politics. And I just knew that I was meant to do more and that my skills could be used elsewhere. And so I decided in 2017, about a year out, that I was going to quit my job and either travel the world or, at least have a home base and work and travel there and start my own business. So I let Harvard know. And in September of 2018, I packed up the car, moved across the country to Miami. And that's when I opened Freelance and Freedom. So I'm just about to celebrate 3 years. And I started as a virtual assistant, actually, in my business, serving people in the health and wellness industry. And I thought that the most important thing to me at that time was just being able to travel, to have the flexibility to travel. And I did do a great deal of travel my first year. However, I was really just still unhappy with the clients I had and the work I was doing. So I became certified as a life business coach and built my own program to help people leave their own 9 to 5 jobs and start their own virtual business.
That's a real interesting path, that's, so, you had the normal job in a very prestigious, and I mean, everyone in the world knows of Harvard. So obviously, a good and something that looks really, really good. But like you were saying, you weren't happy with it. You wanted to do something different. Miami ended up being a great choice in the long run. I know this is before COVID, but throughout COVID, Miami has been probably one of the better places in the world to be in terms of, your life is still open and the weather is great and everything is going.
Absolutely.
You touched on something I would like to just kind of circle back on a little bit. So you said when you became a VA to health and wellness businesses. So right out the gate, did you niche down straight away? Or did you kind of do a little bit of everything and realize that's a niche you're interested and passionate in, so you zoned in on being a virtual assistant for that industry?
Funny you asked that. I did not start out niche down. Everyone told me, I kept hearing, you need to niche down, you're not going to lose clients by niching down. At the beginning, I was just getting work wherever I could. There's a platform in the US you might be familiar called Upwork. Oh, yeah. And okay, I know it's international as well. So I actually started part-time while I was at Harvard still. I had about 3 clients part-time on there doing some VA work to check it out, make sure I liked it. One of them happened to be, a gym business owner from New York. My now husband is a personal trainer. So I kind of fell into, working with coaches, working with trainers, that type of area. But it took me a while to get there. It took me, I kept asking myself, what's my passion? I think it's important to work in areas that are important to you and that you enjoy. So it took a while to get there, though.
or at least things that you find interesting, I think, because if you, I don't know, you don't know anything about medical and you want to try and go start serving, and helping people with technical medical stuff, you're going to lose it real fast or, computer parts or building, engineering stuff. And if you're not interested in it, I think if you're interested in it, it'll help in a lot. You know what I mean? If you're into CrossFit and you decide you want to start a business serving CrossFit businesses, you've really niched in and you're going to be into it. You're going to listen to the content. You're going to know all the people. You're going to, you're going to know the pages. I think if you have at least some form of an interest in what you're doing, and that could even just be in business. You just want to learn about business, and that's when you serve. There's a lot of VAs who serve podcasts and online coaches and life coaches and every virtual business you can think of. Like, but so I mean, I have seen people just kind of niche in, and I was just curious, like, was that what you did from the start? So look, you kind of painted a nice picture there. So while you were full time, you had made the decision that you wanted to do this. So at that time, you actually started, outside of your hours at Harvard, actually, building up your profile, let's say, on Upwork. So,
yes.
At what point were you ready to leave? I know we're going to get to, like, client work isn't always the most desirable work, maybe further down the line, but like, at what point were you like, okay, like, did you have a full book of business, or did you just have, like, I'm just going to go all in on this, I know how to sell now? Like, how did that look?
So it was a kind of a mixture of things. I gave myself the deadline of a year. So December 2017, I was like, by December of 2018, I'm going to be done here. September seemed like a good time. I had the 3 part-time clients. And so as I got closer to September, I started to build up more and network more. I attended networking events, both in person and online, which I think is so key because it is really all about who you know, and someone always knows someone who needs help, especially a VA. And so I just kind of did all of that at the same time as September neared. And I think I even asked for a raise with the clients I already had. So I was able to make it work. I had interviewed for a position in Miami at the time with a woman who owned a business who needed help. So I don't know, it all fell into line, and I just made it happen.
But there's key important things there. You done work prior that was on, you'd taken steps towards the path that you were looking to move towards, and you'd also given yourself a deadline, which I think is really important, because often you'll find that the work fills the available time. So if you would have said, someday I'll do this, someday,
yes,
10 years from now, and you didn't do it,
yeah,
I think that's 2 really important things there. Was you took action before you even were fully there, and you also gave yourself a deadline, and obviously did the work too, being a key important part of it. So
yes.
So when all that happened, so did you move off serving clients on Upwork? Did you try and go direct? Like, what did that look like? Because that's always an interesting part, I think, of this, because a lot of people, I mean, look, I've interviewed people who are 100% pro Fiverr, pro Upwork. They love it. It's great. People just find them, give them business. And then there's other situations where people are like, get off there as soon as you can, get the clients to pay you directly, screw their 20% fee.
Yeah, I guess I'm mixed about it, but I am grateful for Upwork because it really helped me start my business. I also still get coaching clients on there now, people looking for life and business coaches. So I still use it to this day. And I guess I kept the 3 clients I had on Upwork. And then when I got to Miami, I had that other project, which took up a lot of time, working with that woman, which didn't work out very well. Had to actually leave her. But, something just always, I think it was the action of, like you said, inspired action and networking with the community. I didn't even know, but Miami has a ton of entrepreneurs. And so a friend that I had met told me about another woman that was looking to help for a VA to help her grow her women's community down here, actually, which is kind of what led me to build the one that I did. And so that was a big learning experience. And that was kind of what took the place of what didn't work out with the other woman. So I think you just constantly have to be making those connections, and genuine connections, not, being fake, but just letting people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah. And women's community is something you're passionate about too, isn't it? Like,
absolutely.
Women and women in business. So these networks are often very strong, and because they have them in Ireland too, like there's women in business meetups and stuff like that. And I know one or two business owners who attend, and they're very engaged, and they can be very beneficial for networking and for getting clients and for referrals, and it can really help your business. So it's interesting. So can you talk a little bit more to that? Like, what do you think makes a good community when it comes to these Well, be it a women's community or any community, it doesn't have to be women's, but I have noticed that they seem to be really good for people who show up and participate, you know?
Yes, absolutely. So like you said, definitely the referrals and collaborations and people working together. I've seen beautiful projects come out of our community. Even one of the women is going to be translating my book from the community. So they're just beautiful things like that. But also, I think the most important thing is that we have similar values. And with the community in Spain, for example, they seem to be a little bit more competitive with each other when it comes to entrepreneurship, as opposed to what I've seen here in the US. And so I really try to kind of ingrain in them, like, together we're better, working together, collaborating. There's enough room for everyone. It's not a competition. Because there were a couple of issues, you know, that came about, and, you know, to show them that there's room for everyone. So I think that's the most important thing, to align your values.
That's an interesting one, because it's like if people are in a similar industry, I guess maybe if you're in a small local area and it's a small business, like two people who run a yoga studio or something, and you know, like they're direct competitors. You can paint it whatever way. You know? But, so maybe, you know, there might not be any love lost between them, but at the same time, like you're saying, like if it's in the online space, it's infinite. You know what I mean? Like the opportunity is infinite. You know, it doesn't matter that you sell a course about this and I sell a course about that, and it's the same. The world is your market, and you know, we can only we'll go further together.
Yes.
There's a saying, I love it. It's the a rising tide lifts all ships. So I've always loved that, because I believe in that too. You know, I have a few close friends who I've met along the years. Some are very successful, like, you know, online, and make a lot of money. We still talk, and we talk like we did before they made their fortunes online and bought their Bitcoin at the right time and all the rest of it. But you know, we sharing insights with each other and being honest with each other is helpful. So if you can create that community, then that's great. Can you talk a little bit more about Spain? So you left Miami for a little while and moved over to Spain, isn't that right?
Sort of. So I had studied abroad in Spain in college, and then I went back. That was when I was 19 and 20. And then I went back and taught English for 2 years in 2011 to 2013. And I always wanted to move back. And so in January of 2020, obviously with a lot of planning behind that starting in 2019. But in January of 2020, I launched Femprendedoras, which was this women's community in Seville, Spain. So from Miami, I was traveling back and forth until the pandemic hit. When I came home in March, I almost got stuck there, which would have been a little bit crazy. But I came home right at the beginning of March, before they went into lockdown, and wasn't able to go back. And so it was, you know, like any business owner, okay, what do I do? Pivot. It had started to grow very quickly, and everything, of course, that went in person went to online, and we kind of just pivoted and made adjustments from there. And honestly, it was such a difficult situation, but also a beautiful one, because I felt truly supported while I was home in lockdown, and you know, everyone was, and all of these women from all around Spain that were just able to come together and help each other out with their social media or whatever, and work on different projects and workshops. So it turned into a positive.
Yeah. And what was the goal of the community? Was it to bring like-minded people together to teach them about launching online businesses? Is that or to take their maybe physical business into an online world? Can you just talk a little bit about like what you actually did when you were there?
Sure. So the focus was more on coming together. So there were women from all different levels of business. So some were just starting, some had an idea, some were just starting, and some were already, you know, established for so many years. And so there's workshops every month, and then there was a couple of networking/social events every month. So there was always a learning aspect. They were big learners. So they always wanted to keep growing. And so that was a part of it, but then also just the connection part of it.
Cool. So learning, networking, lunch and learns, that sort of stuff.
Yep.
We do them all the time. I was setting one up earlier on for next week, live video shopping.
Oh, wow.
Shopify, yeah. It's where you're like able to have influencers like stand there with their phones and
oh, wow.
they'll be wearing something like, oh, do you like my new Gymshark top? And you can, in the video that they're doing, you can just click it and buy it. Like, oh, it's nuts. It's so cool.
Very cool. I never heard of that before.
It's going to be the thing, I think, moving forward. China's commerce is very well developed, and a lot of these apps are starting to become normalized over here, or they're starting to launch over here. Anyway, it's really cool.
Very interesting.
So look, I'd like to talk a little bit about 8 steps to starting your virtual business. So, your business, your core business model is around business mentorship and coaching, and you help people build or get started with a virtual business. So, let's talk about that a little bit. What are these 8 steps? And over to you.
Sure. Okay. Yes. So the program is 8 weeks with a 9th week check-in a month later. And also, besides the 8 steps that we're going to talk about, the other part of it is helping people be accountable. So that was also another part of the community, is having an accountability partner. And so if we're going to both show up and meet and set our goals for the week on Monday at this time, you're more likely to get your goals done, right? So that also comes with the program. So the first week, we do a session and then you go back and design your business model. And I always say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, because to me, having a plan for everything, and sometimes the plan changes and that's okay, but to have at least an outline to get, idea of where you're going is the first step. Yep. The second step is to identify your ideal client. And I think that's the next important thing. There's an order for a reason. So, you have to know who you're going to be selling to, who you're going to be working with, so that you can then go ahead and write copy in social media and your website, and be able to speak to them and really relate to them. The third one is identify your niche. And like I said, I was one of those guilty that did not start out right away with a niche, but I have found and seen the importance of it. And so I encourage people, we do a session on it, and I encourage them to pick a niche and to just try it. And again, you can always change it. Nothing is set in stone. So go ahead.
You can always pivot. And, if you don't
Yes.
go too niche, like wellness is broad. Whereas
right.
yoga is very specific,
Exactly.
There's benefits in serving both, but if you zoom right in and it doesn't work, you can just zoom out a little, like take it out. So yeah, I think that's really that's a really good point about niching down, because I've seen that as well. Like, it seems to work really well for virtual assistants.
Yes. Yep. Because then you get really good at doing one thing, and then you're like the master of it. So you're like, I can help anyone with their podcast, like you said earlier, or, so let's see. The next week we talk about building your brand, and that's not, a lot of people think the brand is just kind of logos and colors, but it also includes your mission statement and your company values, and, knowing what social media platforms that you can find your ideal client on. And how you'll reach them. So that
been a big part of it by any chance?
Well, it depends on what kind of business it is. Because sometimes LinkedIn isn't good for certain businesses. I mean, you can always find people on LinkedIn, but it just depends on what the person is, or who the person is focusing on.
Okay, so this all comes from the pre-work. So that's
yes. Exactly. Each week we have a session, and then they go home and do the homework, and then we review it the following week. So week 5 is registering your business. So I don't think I've done this yet internationally with people, but at least in the US, it's different in every state. And so I actually go through and do the homework ahead of time for that person, wherever they live, and help them figure out what's the best way to register. And I always say consult with a lawyer if you aren't sure, but it's pretty simplified here, and I've done my own businesses as well. So Week 6 is building your business systems and processes, which I think is super important, especially when you're starting out. If you can be as organized as you can, it'll help you get a foot forward and help you be more successful. And that also includes, knowing how to organize your finances, knowing what platforms to use, what is going to help automate, things like that. And then week 7 is creating a marketing plan. And so we again focus on the ideal client, but also confirm which social media platforms they'll use, what kind of email marketing platform they'll use, set up an actual posting schedule, kind of niche down on ideas, and just really get that ready for them to start promoting their business. And then the last week is talking about your future and growth. So we kind of revisit the business plan, go back and set long-term and short-term business goals, and making sure that it's tied in with their mission statement, and that they're basically ready to go. And a lot of times it's happened that people actually get their first client while we're working together, which is awesome. So then we get to kind of go through all the steps together. So yeah, that is my 8-week process.
It's like, first of all, it's very well laid out. And that's my first time to hear it. So it sounds very well laid out and like a very good blueprint. I think
thank you.
At the very start, you made probably one of the most key points, which is having an accountability partner, because that, you can get a plan and people just don't do the work. But when you have to show up and you have to say what you've done, and as well, when you've invested money in something, you want to show up, and you show up with enthusiasm. It's like, look, I'm trying to change my life here. I'm trying to build a virtual business. I'm interested. I want to do this. I've invested in myself, so I've put money down.
Yes.
And you have an accountability partner. It's like all those things should help the stars align. And if you take through the work, you know what I mean? Because sometimes I think the big challenge for people is in those first two. It's kind of like, I don't know what I'm going to offer. I don't know, what can I offer, and who the hell would buy it? And that's where having a bit of work, so just to kind of hone in on those, for people listening who are maybe at that stage, what sort of stuff would you kind of walk people through? If you were new to it, if you were new to online business, you were working in a job you didn't particularly like is it you start to map out for transferable skills? Is it, what sort of stuff would you do really? I'm just curious to dig, not going all the way in obviously, but to go in a layer or two deeper on those.
Yeah, absolutely. So most people that come to me already know what they want to do, but if they don't, I actually have something that's called a needs test. That's a coaching, and it's, one of those just yes or no, but it's 100 questions, and I go through and I calculate it. And so it shows me what drives them and their strengths and weaknesses. And so that really helps me kind of suggest possible jobs that they could do if they're not sure. So that's kind of where we start. And then with the business plan, it's breaking it down into the different sections, so kind of how the 8 weeks are broken down. So finance, mindset, social media, marketing, and we break down a plan. I have a whole map and certain questions that they answer that way.
Lovely. So for all the people that have gone through it, what do you see are some of the most common challenges that people face? Is it actually logistics challenges, as in I don't know how to do this, or the tech or something, or is it more mindset? They get a bit of a knockback and they feel discouraged and they're like, screw this. What? Or is there even patterns that you just see over and over again, with how people approach it?
Absolutely. It's definitely mindset. I do sprinkle different, I'm a big believer in affirmations. They have changed my life completely. And so I sprinkle a little bit of that throughout each week. Sometimes we have some extra time at the end of the sessions. So, mindset, I would say 90% of being a successful business owner is believing in yourself and just taking the leap and just doing it anyway, even if you're fearful. And so That's the biggest pattern and struggle that I see is people, okay, I've done this course. Now what? Like, I don't know if I can really go out there and do it and execute all that I've learned. So that's definitely been the biggest theme for sure.
Do you think that, so like, I guess breaking mindset up. So you have like the fear of rejection, which is a big one that people have. And obviously when you're pitching, you're pitching for work. So you're going to get no's. It's a numbers game. I always think of freelancing, like with freelancing, like if you are not doing client work and you have set a certain amount of hours per week, you should be like prospecting or pitching for those other hours, like there has to be some sort of a balance. But like that's one side of it is like the fear of rejection, which is negative emotion, creates all that. And another part of it is actually like money mindset. Like, who am I to charge that person that much? I wouldn't pay me that much or something. So, do you feel like, would these be two of the most common kind of mindset challenges that you see people come up against?
Absolutely. And a little bit just with the second one you said is also just believing that they actually can do what they're trying to do. Even though they have the skills, it's like that fear of, leaving behind the security and can I really do this? So yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So like where would people, like I'm going to say like where would people typically go to get clients? But like, I guess it's relative to who they are and what they're looking for. Sorry, I was kind of answering the question in my own head. When I look up to the sky, that's me. Look.
Well, I definitely encourage pretty much everybody to start an email list from day one, because that was something that I, create a freebie and start an email list. And, then obviously there's the networking aspect, telling everyone that family, friends, and going to events. Even though COVID is still active, there's tons of virtual events and conferences. So doing that and just like you said, pitching people, whether it's on Instagram or LinkedIn, and not in a salesy way, but just creating those valid relationships, those real relationships, so that the next time someone needs a VA or whatever the business is, they'll think of you and someone will refer you.
So can we elaborate? Because we've talked a lot about virtual assistants. So I would like to expand that. So, tell me a little bit more about some of the other types of virtual businesses that you see people start.
Okay. Well, I actually worked with an attorney before. He was he obviously already had passed the bar and everything, but he was revamping his business. Various kinds of coaches, online coaches. Who else? My biggest clients are coaches and VAs. Okay. But a lot of people in the social media and marketing, background. So anything that you can do virtually. Yeah. Those are the main areas that I've worked with.
Cool. No, I'm just trying to get a little bit of a flavor. So coaches, and when you're saying coaches, I mean, are we talking lifestyle coach, personal training, like all sorts of people who can coach you online, or is it a specific type of client that you see that tends to gravitate towards?
They're mostly coaches that want to either do consulting. I've worked with a health coach, a wellness coach, people that want to create a signature program that they can sell, kind of like the 8-week one.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Yeah. So their own online course.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. No, that's awesome. I was curious. I kind of wanted to flesh that out a little bit more and see, what sort of people tend to gravitate your way. So, you have a book coming out very soon, I believe.
I do.
In the United States. Let's talk about
that
a little bit. What's happening with that?
Sure. So it's called Blondie Without Borders. And one part of actually week 8 that I didn't really talk about is setting up rituals and kind of boundaries for yourself in your business. So when I left Harvard and I started my own business, I was working 24/7. I didn't make time for myself. I didn't make time for my health. I didn't have a set calendar. And these were all things that now have been very important to me as 3 years later. And I didn't know the importance of boundaries. So that's part of it. But I also have a bit of a past life and a crazy lifestyle. So the book touches, it's actually myself going through Seville, Spain, my favorite country in the world, with my husband. And as we are walking through the streets of Sevilla, we run into people or see things that spark a memory, and then I tell a story. So it goes through battles with addiction, with food issues, toxic relationships, past marriages, just kind of really gets into the deep in it. Yeah. Yeah.
We were chatting beforehand, and you've got some good travel stories, so
travel as well, because you do need to set boundaries when you travel, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yep. And then in business.
Just business. So it's the mix, and that makes for an interesting,
correct.
I think that makes for an interesting book, because it's not just do this, do that, business. It's like stories in there, and there's personal experiences, and
yes,
it makes for just makes for more enjoyable read, really. And
yeah.
But then,
well, one of my
where does it get to from a business side? So
let's see. Geez, there's so many stories. I'm trying to think of
I
business.
don't mean a story.
Oh.
I kind of just mean so the book, if I was to take, what would I learn from it from a business perspective? Like, is it about, being a digital nomad and creating an online business and giving you that freedom so that you can do it? Is that kind of what it touches on?
No.
More travel stories?
No, there's really only one or two. There's two travel stories, I think. It's more relationship stories and kind of self-development. But with business, it's the importance of setting boundaries in your business, and also leaving and letting go of things that no longer serve you. So like letting go of my job at Harvard because I wasn't happy, choosing myself and choosing happiness first, even if it's a little bit scary. So setting the boundaries so that I can have a successful business, like a routine in the morning, and have a Google Calendar to keep me organized in those things. And just being able to say no. The biggest business was actually the story of the woman that I shared earlier when I moved to Miami and it didn't work out. It was like this whole big story. So I share that story. That's the business story.
If you want the details, you have to buy the book.
Yes, exactly.
Blondie Without Borders. It'll be on Amazon, will it?
It will, yes, September 15th.
September 15th, yeah. So I'll work to get this live before then, so that it's a better pre-order.
Oh, thank you.
Sweet, yeah. So that's that's kind of it, really. Like for me, I feel like I've got a good. We had a good chat. We talked about the 8 steps to starting a virtual business. Got to hear all about your history and the upcoming book, which sounds like it has a lot of interesting stories. And it's funny you said it about the job, right? Because like my situation years ago was I worked in Australia and I lived there for 3 years and I was sponsored and I was working in civil construction and I hated the job. Like, you can't imagine. Similar to what you're saying, in that very long hours, you had no control. I had no control over where I lived. Like, I could go in the morning and be told you're going to the other side of Australia.
Oh, wow.
For how long? Until we tell you.
Wow.
And look, for some people, that was the dream back. We were early 20s, Irish, go away and work construction somewhere, like it was painted as the thing to do, and to get your passport for Australia, like that was the goal, get the Australian passport, get the citizenship, so you could always go to Australia. And I just left. I went to Queenstown in New Zealand, and like I was sitting in a hostel, and everyone was having a laugh, and I was just like, what am I doing? Like, I'm 24. Why am I working this really stressful, horrible job where we were underground for most of the day, like actually under the ground. And
wow.
Like it sucked, and I was really into like trying to learn about online stuff. So I'd be there on my lunch, like learning about how to make ebooks and how to build websites, and I'd be building like Amazon affiliate websites like on the weekends.
Wow!
And just trying to, I don't know.
Good for you.
And then everybody thought I was mad, because you can imagine like Australia is very far away from Ireland. When I told everybody at home, they were like, you'd got the thing you went there for. Like, you left Ireland to try and get sponsored in Australia, to get a good salary, to go. And I got all those things. And then I got there and I was like, this isn't what I want.
Yeah.
I actually hate this. So I left and became I joined an agency and became a jack of all trades for a couple of months. But that was when I started freelance writing and got into SEO and got into online marketing and moved to Thailand. And, like, everything kind of splintered on from that one decision. But,
yeah.
Well,
sometimes people change, first of all. And other times we try things and we think it's going to be the greatest thing in the world. And then once we're there or we do it, it's like, oh, it really isn't, or other things are more important to us. So I just think it's important to listen to your gut and your intuition. And like you left eventually, and started something else.
Yeah, I mean, I always knew it wasn't for me. I thought going to teach English in Asia was going to be for me, and I tried to do my TEFL, and I was like, nah.
I have my TEFL as well, and I'm yet to use it, so I feel you on that.
Did the TEFL and then was like, I am not teaching English.
Yeah.
No thanks. I'll be a $10 an hour freelance writer before I be an English teacher. That's what I did for a while.
Well, at least you did what you loved.
Yeah, well, all these things then led, once again, about following the thing you're interested in. I just became genuinely interested in, I would just say, online business. There's not one particular thing that drew me. It was all of it. Like, I was interested in all of it, so I learned a little bit about all of it. Tried a bunch of things, messed up, but got straight into freelancing. Like, freelancing was the first thing I did. Built up clients, pitching people. A lot of the stuff you're talking about, who is it that I want to serve? I want to serve bloggers. Who are my ideal clients? Bloggers who are making loads of money already, like successful bloggers. And then I'd pitch them that I'll blog for them or I'll write for them. And SEO agencies then I learned became a really good resource for a writer because they are always getting content written. So like I knew who to serve, and then I knew who to pitch, and I knew to go on LinkedIn and hit up the agencies, and I knew to email bloggers, and that allowed for a while to sustain myself as a freelancer, I guess inadvertently did the work and tried to do it in hostels where there's so much partying going on, it was quite difficult.
Been there.
But, it all led to, the here and now where we're having this conversation. So I don't regret any of it, but like you're saying, one of the key things is, if you know in your gut you're doing something and it's not for you, then not just chuck it all out the window, but like, start thinking about what it is that you do want and write that out, make a bit of a vision for it, and then start taking action.
Inspired action.
Join groups, communities, Facebook groups, I think are really, really beneficial. There's so many good Facebook groups. And for business too. Like, you see it all the time. People asking, there's somebody who can help me with X or Y, and I see it all the time in the groups I'm in. Can't get good writers, can't get good web designers, want help with Kajabi is a big one. So it's like, I see it all the time. There's works there. People just got to come in and want it, be hungry for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Serve the market what they're asking for.
Yeah.
So lovely. Christine, what's the best way for people to connect with you online?
It's freelance N with the letter N, freedom. That's on my Instagram, freelanceandfreedom.com. And the book also has an Instagram page / my travel page is Blondie Without Borders.
Lovely. I'll make sure to link everything up in Spotify and on the website and YouTube and everywhere else. So thank you for joining me.
Awesome.
And thank
you so much for having me.
And thanks to everyone who's tuned in.